Alia tugged nervously at the edge of her faded shawl as she stood outside Café Verona, a place that smelled of roasted coffee and old money. Through the wide glass windows, she could already see polished floors, waiters in crisp uniforms, and people dressed in designer brands. She felt like an intruder. She looked down at herself. Worn sandals, a wrinkled cotton dress, and a shawl with loose threads dangling like her nerves. She could have borrowed something nicer from her cousin, but she didn't want to. Tonight wasn't about impressing anyone. Tonight was a test. Her best friend, Zara, had arranged this blind date, promising that the man, Ryan Malik, was different. A CEO, successful, kind, and looking for something real. But Alia had heard that line before. Men who said they wanted simplicity until they actually saw it. So she decided to meet him as she was, or perhaps, worse than she was, to see if he meant what he claimed. She took a deep breath and pushed the cafe door open. Heads turned briefly, then quickly away. The waiter's polite smile flickered, replaced by confusion when she mentioned Ryan's name. But he led her to a corner booth anyway. Ryan was already there. His dark suit fit perfectly, the kind only money could buy. A silver watch gleamed on his wrist, but it was his eyes that caught her off guard, warm, curious, not judging. He stood up immediately. "You must be Alia," he said, his voice calm, gentle. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." She sat down slowly, expecting the usual flicker of disdain. It never came. He didn't glance at her clothes once. Instead, he asked, "How was your day?" as if the rest of the world had vanished. "Messy," she admitted, surprised by her own honesty. He smiled. "The best days usually are." Their conversation flowed easily. He laughed when she told him about the children at the art center where she volunteered, and his eyes softened when she spoke about sketching old city streets. He didn't ask what car she drove or where she lived, he asked what made her heart feel full. When the evening ended, he stood again and said quietly, "Next time, I'll tell you my messy day." She blinked. "Next time," he smiled, "if you'll let me see the real you again." For the first time, Alia wasn't sure if she'd been the one testing him, or if fate had been testing her all along. 2 days later, Alia stood in front of her mirror, frowning at her reflection. This time, she was dressed properly, a soft blue dress, simple pearl earrings, her hair neatly tied back. She didn't want to appear like she was trying too hard, but she also didn't want to repeat the beggar look from before. And yet, part of her missed that freedom. The first meeting had felt real. She'd expected judgment, but Ryan had offered nothing but quiet respect and curiosity. When she reached Café Verona again, she found him already there, waiting with that same calm smile. No expensive watch today, no formal suit, just a plain white shirt with rolled-up sleeves. Somehow, that made her nervous. "You look different," he said, standing to greet her. "So do you," she replied, half smiling. He chuckled softly. "Guess we both dressed up for each other's truth." They sat. The waiter brought coffee without being asked. This time, their conversation felt warmer, less like strangers and more like two souls gradually finding rhythm. He told her about his childhood, growing up in a crowded neighborhood before life gave him everything he thought he wanted. "I built my company," he said, "but somewhere along the way, I forgot what I was building it for." Alia listened, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. "Maybe you were waiting for someone to remind you." He looked up, eyes locking onto hers. "Maybe I was." For a moment, silence settled between them, not awkward, but heavy with something unspoken. When their meal ended, Alia reached for the bill, but he stopped her gently. "I thought you were paying this time," he teased. She laughed, the sound bright and genuine. "You remember everything, don't you?" "I remember everything about that night," he said quietly. "Especially how you made the whole place look small compared to you." Her cheeks warmed. She didn't know what to say, so she looked away, pretending to search her bag. Outside, the evening breeze carried the scent of rain and jasmine. As they walked toward the door, Ryan asked, "Would you let me see the rest of your world, Alia? The one you sketch in your mind?" She smiled softly. "Only if you're ready to get your shoes dirty." He laughed. "For you, I think I already did." Alia wasn't sure why she'd invited him. Maybe curiosity, maybe courage, but as she watched Ryan's sleek black car crawl through the narrow lanes of her neighborhood, she began to regret it. Children chased each other barefoot through puddles, the smell of street food lingered in the air, and a tangle of wires hung dangerously low above the street stalls. This was her world, messy, loud, alive. She wondered how it looked through his eyes, this CEO with polished shoes and a life built on glass towers. When he stepped out of the car, people stared. Ryan's white shirt was too clean, his presence too out of place. But he smiled, unbothered. "So," he said, glancing around with genuine curiosity, "this is where the magic happens." She led him down a narrow alley toward the small community art center. The walls were splattered with paint, every inch filled with murals drawn by children, bright suns, crooked houses, and names written in shaky letters. "This is beautiful," he murmured. Alia smiled. "It's not perfect, but it's honest." Inside, the children greeted her with cheers. They swarmed her instantly, tugging at her shawl, showing their sketches. Ryan watched quietly, a soft smile touching his lips. When one of the kids, a little boy with paint all over his hands, offered him a brush, Ryan hesitated for a moment, then knelt down and took it. Soon, laughter filled the room as he painted, terribly. His tie ended up streaked with green, his fingers red and blue. The children giggled, correcting his every move. Alia watched, her chest tightening in a way she hadn't felt in years. Later, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, Ryan stood beside her, looking at the messy wall they'd painted together, a skyline of colors and uneven shapes. "I used to think beauty had to be flawless," he said softly. "But this feels more real than anything I've built." Alia turned to him. "That's because it's made by hearts, not hands." He looked at her for a long moment, his eyes warm. "Then I think I've finally found where I belong." She smiled faintly, brushing a streak of blue paint from his cheek. "Careful, Mr. CEO, you're starting to fit in." He laughed. "That's the plan, Miss Artist." And for the first time, the line between their worlds began to blur. The next week brought a change neither of them expected. Ryan began visiting the art center often, helping the children paint, fixing broken windows, even donating supplies, but always quietly, never seeking attention. The kids adored him. Alia, though, tried to keep her guard up. She'd seen men play the role of savior before, only to lose interest once the novelty faded. But Ryan was different. He stayed even when the cameras weren't there, even when it rained. Then one morning, everything changed. Alia arrived to find reporters gathered near the center, microphones flashing like angry fireflies. A headline from a glossy magazine screamed. From someone's phone screen, CEO Ryan Malik spotted in slums, rumored romance with local art teacher. Her heart sank. Inside, Ryan stood talking to one of the volunteers, clearly trying to calm the chaos. The moment he saw her, he walked over, his face tight with frustration. "Alia, I swear I didn't." She held up her hand. "You didn't invite them, I know, but they came anyway." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I can handle business scandals, but this feels personal." "It is personal," she said quietly. "This is my world, Ryan. These people don't need publicity, they need peace." For a moment, neither spoke. The noise of reporters outside echoed like distant thunder. "I'll make it stop," he promised. "I'll tell them there's nothing between us, that it's just charity work." Her heart twisted. "Is that what you want them to believe?" He froze. "No, but I'll say whatever keeps you safe." She looked up at him. This man who could buy silence with money, but not protect her from whispers. Her voice softened. "Maybe some stories aren't meant to be headlines. Maybe they're meant to stay in hearts." Ryan reached for her hand, but she stepped back, her eyes full of sadness. "You come from a world that measures worth in numbers. Mine measures it in colors. And when those worlds collide, something always breaks." The silence between them felt heavier than the crowd outside. As she turned to walk away, paint-stained children pressed their faces against the window, watching silently, too young to understand love, but old enough to feel the ache of two people pulled apart by the distance between their dreams.